Missouri is inextricably connected to U.S. history. How the United States is going to develop, or more importantly, how the places that became the United States were going to develop, is something we can really see by looking at our own state. And then the country that would emerge is impossible without the distinctive history of Missouri.
When we look at Missouri in American history, it's a fascinating place because we really are sort of caught in the middle in every sense of that word. We've been geographically in the middle, culturally in the middle. Anything that has happened across the course of American history, you can tell a Missouri story about that, about the ways Missouri not only shaped the nation, but the way the nation was shaping how Missouri turned out to be as a state. So while you have fascinating things happening all over the place with American history, Missouri is this totally unique place where all of these things are kind of congealing and a lot of the big moments are happening and taking shape.
The draw to that confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi was not originally seen as a location of trade. It was seen as a location of abundance. And that source of the confluence was also the main draw for those ancestral Osage because of the spirit, the richness, the power of the water and the confluence. Those two large bodies of water coming together is something that's very significant for our tribe. The name of our Osage, ancestral Osage people is Neokanska, which means children of the middle waters. So this is a place of middle waters, essentially, of where we came to be and to grow as a culture.
There are few places in the United States that better reflect the major developments in American history, that better reflect an early history that is complex, that involves movement and migration and change. There are few places that better reflect the nation's social and demographic changes in the 19th century, and then fewer places that better reflect how the nation has changed in the last century.
It seems like such a small thing against the scope of the Revolutionary War and the scope of American history, but had St. Louis fallen to Great Britain, they would have been able to set up a military encampment at the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers. All that fur trading wealth that was going to France and Spain and ultimately to the United States, their allies, all of that would have transferred over to Great Britain. You can see this situation where had Great Britain managed to get St. Louis, they could actually build a new sort of base in the center of the country, and the United States might not look the way it does today.
The Louisiana Purchase creates the single greatest domestic governance challenge of the first half of the 19th century. And in the end, it's the Louisiana Purchase as much as anything that will precipitate the Civil War.
The same time that the Louisiana Territory is being transferred to the United States at St. Louis, right across the river on the Illinois side, two explorers are preparing for the journey of a lifetime. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark were sent by Thomas Jefferson to try to find a path through the new purchase of the United States. They eventually make it all the way to the Pacific Ocean and return living to tell the tale.
With that 1808 treaty, we thought we could come back and hunt in our areas where we've always hunted. We could go to our resource areas, our sacred sites, our burials of, our families. The 1825 treaty solidified, the whole state for us, that we could not come back. And so Missouri state law states that Native Americans are not allowed in the borders of Missouri.
When people are heading westward, whether it be on the Santa Fe Trail or the Oregon Trail, all of these different trails heading west out of Missouri, leaving from places like Independence and St. Joseph, all of those families were stocking up on goods in St. Louis.
What the Missouri Compromise does is it places the institution of enslavement first and front and center in terms of the U.S. government. There has to be a decision made on it. The Scott case in and of itself was one of many. The reason it is so important is because it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then the decision that was handed down by Chief Justice Taney was one that said, you know, the fact that they even filed a suit, it should have never happened because they're not citizens. And it wasn't because they weren't citizens because they were enslaved. Taney argues that they weren't citizens because the political founders of the United States did not consider any person of African descent to be a citizen, nor their descendants. And they didn't have any rights which white Americans were bound to respect. And so this case has this national impact. It nationalizes slavery.
Understand our country in a certain way. And it's unimaginable to see the United States as it is now without Missouri. And I don't just mean it would be like something's missing in the middle. I mean that the country would not have become what it was without Missouri.